Dr. Kumar, Dr. Martha Kumar, could you talk to me about the transition and the the Obama effort to look to the other side of the aisle, Republicans, particularly John McCain, as he's trying to forge ahead with the 44th presidency?
One of the things I think we find from an administration is they try to not repeat the mistakes of the one before them. And one of the commitments that President Bush made that was very attractive to people in 2000 was that he wanted to change the tone in Washington. And I think that he was sincere in that, but it required doing things and perhaps using tools that he had not used in the past. And it did not work out. The tone in Washington, certainly during the administration, particularly in election years, has been very, very partisan. We started out in a nonpartisan way on education with George Miller and Ted Kennedy coming over in that first week and working on education. But I think that in this campaign it was an issue again, and Senator Obama, having watched it from his institution, I think saw and appreciated the lost opportunities that are involved in being very partisan. So that became a cornerstone of his presidential campaign, and as president-elect, he wants to make sure, I suspect, when he comes in, that he's going to have the best opportunity possible of working together with Republicans and working with people in his own party with whom he may disagree. And that has been something that seems natural to him, that he has been pretty good in working with others. And I think part of that comes from his personality, that he's not too cool, not too hot, so he doesn't get in a mode where he offends people, and that it becomes difficult to work with people because of things he said in the past. So that has been something that has been important for him as a person, but it's in his commitments too. You see it in the campaign, and now that's been one of the most important efforts that he's been making, was bringing in people to talk to them, people that he had run against, and people who are aware of other institutions. For example, bringing in Rahm Emanuel as his chief of staff. He may have a style that is sharp, but he also has an understanding of another important part of government that, as president, Barack Obama is going to need, and that's the House of Representatives. And so I think he's brought in allies who maybe represent different types of knowledge, and then he's also has wanted to make sure that he doesn't have any kind of sour feelings, say with John McCain, which is easy to do after a campaign. In a way, for his vice president, Joseph Biden, it's a very natural thing to do after an election, is to bury the hatchet. I lived in Delaware for many years, and one of the traditions that Delaware has, which people think is quaint, and I always thought was such a good idea and should be repeated elsewhere, was they had something that's called Return Day, and that is that everybody went to the Capitol, to Dover, and people who had run against one another, and they all appeared together. And I think that it is a gesture that's important to do, that it pays off in the long run, but only if one is committed to it, and I think that clearly Obama is. But it's not easy in terms of say, if you're thinking of bringing into your cabinet people who've been your opponents. That can be a difficult thing to do. because their skills may lie elsewhere. Their you can't, in a way, you can't bring people in because of a campaign. You have to bring them in because you need them in governing, and that they have skills, knowledge, and talent that relates to governing.
So there would be more than just a dissenting voice. There would be someone who has an expertise in that area that he would pick them in, but there would also possibly be a dissenting voice to kind of ground him, correct?
Well, could represent a different viewpoint. But the idea is having them around you, that if you have your opponents around you, they're less likely to give you trouble. In the Johnson administration, Johnson was asked why he didn't get rid of J. Edgar Hoover, and he explained that it was better having him inside the tent pissing out than outside pissing in, is what Johnson said. And so the idea is that they're not going to be people who are going to they can give you less trouble if they're around you and within your administration. But they also have to be people that are knowledgeable and talented as well.
So what other president had a record almost similar to Lincoln, or closest or closer to Lincoln, as far as bringing in dissenting voices or his political enemies?
Well, in Lincoln's case, Lincoln was going to have a very different relationship with Congress, and Lincoln won by far less than the popular vote, less than 50%. Obama comes in with a really strong majority. In Lincoln's case, Lincoln established what a wartime leader was, and he established precedents that his successors can have used in terms of who the president is as a commander-in-chief. And when he came in, the Congress was interested in running the war, and so he did not call them into session until July. So that was a different kind of relationship than is true today. And or gradually that relationship that the president had as a crisis leader, because he's our first crisis president, and so he establishes the president as the center, as commander-in-chief. And when Wilson came during World War I, that Congress was far more willing to allow him to be a leader in that crisis. And in the Franklin Roosevelt administration, there you have a president with two crises: the crisis of the Depression and the crisis of World War II. And in both cases, Congress wanted him to lead. And so today we have the president has a relationship with the Congress it's different than the kind that Lincoln faced. And so you want your allies in a variety of places. You want them on the Hill, as well as, and in both houses, as well as within your cabinet.
Well, Dr. Kumar, thank you so much. Dr. Martha Joint Kumar, Professor of Political Science at Towson University in Baltimore, Maryland.